When your birthday is April 7th, you reverse imply that's 47, AK-47. That's not enough, but you go a little further. AK-47 gives you A is 1 and K is 11, right? The first letter of the alphabet is A and the 11th is K. So you get 111, but your social is 5551564228. And you get uranium-235 out of that, right? Because 5 plus 5 plus 5 is 15, right? And 15 equals 3 times 5. And the next two digits, fourth and fifth digits, is 1, 5. So that's 15 and 15. So 15 and 15 is equal to 2 times 3 times 5, right? Because the factors of 15 are both 3 and 5. So if you do it twice, you get 2 times 3 times 5. So 2 times 3 times 5 is what? It's 235. And the first 5 digits sum to 21. 555156428. So the first 5 is 21. So you get U for the 21st letter of the alphabet. You get U235. Now that's uranium. You get 238. You just add the 3 and the 5. You get an 8. And the last digit of the social is an 8. So when your numbers add up like that, well, there's more. The birthday gave you the 111 for the Antonin Kalashnikov 47, which is an AK-47. So you get the 555 and the 111. You get the 666. Cross-reference that to that book about the SEAL Team 666. It's fiction, but the devil would write a lot of fiction for you, right? And the thing is, if you work for the Secret Service, if you're in some nuclear programs like the football, they're going to set your family up. Your family needs a kind of clearance that they don't always want to apply for, but they may express some willingness to support you and to protect us and, protect government secrets, whatever they say. But the government is not just going to say, well, okay, they say they'll protect the secrets, they say they'll support their son, they say they'll be nice, because when the spies start hitting them, they need a little bit better guarantee. The devil sets you up, and the nuclear program is that devil worshiping program that is part of the end of the world, and they don't mind setting you up with the devil. And that's where those 666 numbers pop for the uranium-235 and 238 that's in those implosion and gun-type nuclear weapons. So, that's what I take from it. And the guy who wrote the book, SEAL Team 666, I understand that it's a program where you're not going to do a godly thing in the end times. It's a program where you're going to push a button and wipe out civilization. Maybe not the entire planet, but parts of the planet like China, Russia, North Korea. That's where a lot of our stuff's going. Maybe some Arab country like Iran or something, a Persian country, excuse me. But that's not a godly thing to do in the end times. And so if 666 is the number, we have to tell somebody that, yeah, we're not gonna spend. We might say a prayer after we send the missiles downrange, but push comes to shove, we're not gonna let you turn our country into a sea of fire without returning fire. And I'll tell you, this National Nuclear Security Program, National Nuclear Security Administration, the Navy National Nuclear Security agencies and stuff. That stuff has kind of been in the program for a while. In the Navy, they had fleet security, and they had people who did that, and DOE had people, and they had formalized it, I think, after Hazel O'Leary, when Bill Richardson took over. And I have always had a lot of suggestions, being inside a program, how to formalize things. Some of it comes from our red cell efforts. We do red cells, and then we figure out better ways of doing business. There lessons learned after action reviews, as maybe the Army calls it, or lessons learned. And we figure out maybe how the Army should do something better, how the Energy Department should do something better, how we should train people better, how we should select people better. I worked in a laboratory. They tried to pull my clearance one time because I was kind of a duty mole. I had a few roles. They do exercise every year on that base. And they have SEALs out there protecting the base because they have waste there, and they have laboratories doing calibration of instruments used for radiation that are critical to the war effort. Because if we have to fight a nuclear war in Korea or Pacific Rim somewhere, we need the right instruments. Pilots need them, ground troops need them, naval forces need them. And they go somewhere, they calibrate them and check them, double check them and things like that at other labs. But I was a fleet security officer, and I assisted physicists. I walk around the base with them, go to the O Club with them. He was taking classes to learn about business and get his degree. He was a former warrant officer. And I'll go to class with him, and I do counterintelligence in the classroom, listen to what he was saying, what other people were saying, see what was going on with the other civilians he worked with from the logistics branch or something like that. Then we'd do our exercise, and there were things that they could and couldn't do. We didn't want them coming there and grabbing things they didn't know how to handle. And they was trying to break into our facility, but they were also trying to break in a big satellite trunk. They got a big dish out there and handles a lot of traffic in and out of Korea. And the Special Forces come and aggress the base. The SEALs and the host nation people and the troops on the base, they try to defend it, and the Special Forces always win somehow. They get good intelligence from some red cell guys, and they get some assistance, But at some point, you get tired of being on those kind of bases. And they were really screwing with us over in the chow halls, the cooks. And I'd go over there and they'd flop the food or something. They'd take the good food off the line and put crap on there as I'm walking in the door. And I said, man, the food sucks over there. The only thing that'd be good over there would be like the pepper steak or something, I'd go in there and they'd throw liver on the line and one piece of meatloaf. I'm like, why are they putting one piece of meatloaf out? And there's a bunch of people coming through, They're just trying to give me that one piece of meatloaf because I don't eat liver. They figure out my preferences. And I just walk away and go to the club every day, and buy my own food. As an officer, you're supposed to do that, but as an officer, you're also supposed to inspect the line down there. So finally, I walked down the nucleonics lab with some plutonium-238 in my backpack. And what I did was I strapped it to a meter, and the bottom of the meter had a detector or something, and if you put a check source on the bottom of it or something, you could detect alpha or something like that. Anyways, there's a wand for detecting stuff, and then there's a check thing on the bottom, and I taped it to the bottom. It was a round disc that was used for calibrations, and I taped it to this thing that checks it, and you could turn up the volume and you hear the crackling sound that sounds like static from radiation. It's not radiation static, it's just that's the sound that the circuit makes for when it detects radiation. And radiation is kind of a random event like noise or something. It decays. It has a half-life, and it decays according to that decay formula. That A naught, the initial amount, E, the 2.71828 to the negative RT, where one is the half-life and the other is the amount of time that it's going to decay for, and that equals what's left. That's the exponential decay. And there's all those rules and stuff, but I put a real source under the meter, and I detected radiation, tested it, put it in the backpack, walked over there, I drove over there in a Blazer, whipped it out, and started wanding the food. And there's no risk of contamination, really. I mean, there is some minor. It's in case the source is in case. If you ran over it with a tank, yeah, it would leak. But and plutonium is one of the most deadly substances known to man. And I wanted the food, and it was it sounded like it was radioactive because I turned up the meter volume, and it has a speaker in it, and the guy is looking at me, and he said it wasn't real, and there were some guys started puking in the thing, and they told the guy to puke his food. That's kind of what they do sometimes. If there's a problem in a chow, they got to get a sample and all kinds of things. We was figuring out some food security issues as well. And then I told some signals officer that this was war and to get his troops and move them into position and deploy to the where it was going to deploy. I got them all running and stuff around the base, and the SEALs showed up outside, the platoon or something. They were all at attention with the guidon, with the trident on it, and the lieutenant out there, he was standing there with his SEALs, and they came to attention, saluted, and I took my radiation, went back to the base. They questioned me. The thing is, when they question you after a red cell, you're never really supposed to tell them anything unless you're debriefing somebody. Usually just military people, they know what happened, and you tell them. You tell the senior officers, and then the MPs and stuff they throw at you, you just ignore them and say it never happened. I don't know what you're talking about. That's to make sure you're going to keep it secret. And, almost 30-something years later, you don't have to worry about it.